Did you know that black men in America are 6 times more likely to be incarcerated than white men, even when they commit the same crimes? In some cases, commit no crime at all? The justice system is supposed to protect the innocent, but too often, it tears families apart and destroys lives based on bias and systemic racism. Now imagine being a young black man, falsely accused of a crime, with a prosecutor so determined to see you convicted that the truth doesn't matter. That's the story of Terrence Davis. But this story isn't just about injustice. It's about a lawyer, a brilliant, fearless black lawyer named John Francis, who took on a broken system, a corrupt prosecutor, and all the odds to save an innocent man. Stay with me, because this isn't just a legal story, it's a human story. It's about courage, resilience, and what happens when one person decides to fight for what's right, no matter the cost. John Francis wasn't just a lawyer, he was a force of nature. Known for his sharp mind, unshakable morals, and a determination to see justice served, he had a reputation for taking on the toughest cases. When Terrence Davis, a 24-year-old college student, was falsely accused of robbery and assault, John didn't hesitate. He saw the case for what it was, another example of a system that targets black men, ignores the truth, and values conviction rates over justice. This story isn't just about a trial. It's about the fight for a fairness, the power of perseverance, and the shocking verdict that left an entire nation talking. Let's start with Terrence Davis. Terrence was a college student with dreams of becoming a teacher. He had no criminal record, no history of violence, nothing to suggest he would ever harm anyone. But one night, a convenience store was robbed, and the clerk was assaulted. The police, under pressure to make an arrest, targeted Terrence. Why? He happened to be walking near the store hours after the crime. One eyewitness claimed, under police pressure, that Terrence looked like the suspect. That was enough for the police to arrest him. Terrence insisted he was innocent. He had an airtight alibi. He'd been at a family barbecue with over a dozen witnesses. But the system didn't care. Enter Richard Hall, the prosecutor. Known for his tough-on-crime stance and a troubling history of disproportionately targeting black defendants, Hall was infamous for securing convictions by any means necessary. He ignored the alibi, dismissed the lack of physical evidence, and built his case on shaky eyewitness testimony. By the time John Francis got involved, Terrence had already spent 6 months in jail awaiting trial. His family had spent their savings on legal fees, his mental health was deteriorating, and his future looked bleak. But John saw hope. He knew the system was flawed, but he also knew how to fight it. John wasn't just any lawyer, he was a man on a mission. Born in the segregated South, John grew up watching his father, a factory worker, fight against systemic racism every day. When John was just 12 years old, his father was falsely accused of stealing from his job. The family couldn't afford a good lawyer, and John's father was convicted. That moment shaped John's life. "I promised myself that I'd never let another innocent man go to prison if I could help it," John once said. He worked his way through college and law school, often being the only black student in his classes. Professors doubted him, classmates excluded him, and the system constantly reminded him he didn't belong. But John didn't care. He knew why he was there. When he took on Terrence's case, John knew it would be an uphill battle. The trial was set to take place in a predominantly white county, with a jury pool that reflected the same bias Terrence was up against. The judge had a reputation for siding with the prosecution, and Richard Hall was pulling every dirty trick in the book to secure a conviction. John began by dissecting the prosecution's case. He uncovered that the police had coerced the eyewitness into identifying Terrence. He also discovered that crucial evidence, like security footage from the store, had been lost. But John wasn't intimidated. He tracked down an employee who had secretly copied the footage before it was erased. The video showed the real perpetrator, a man who looked nothing like Terrence. At the same time, John interviewed every single alibi witness, ensuring their stories were consistent and credible. He knew the prosecution would try to discredit them, so he prepared them for every possible question. The trial began, and the tension was palpable. The courtroom was packed, with media outlets covering the case and activists rallying outside. In his opening statement, John addressed the jury directly. "This isn't just a case about Terrence Davis," he said. "This is about a justice system that too often assumes guilt based on skin color. Today, we're here to prove not just Terrence's innocence, but the truth." The prosecution opened with a coerced eyewitness testimony. The witness pointed to Terrence and claimed they were sure he was the robber. But when John cross-examined the witness, everything unraveled. "Did the police suggest to you who to identify?" John asked. After a long pause, the witness admitted, "Yes, they did." Gasps filled the courtroom. The credibility of the prosecution's star witness was shattered. Next, John introduced the security footage. When the video played, showing the real perpetrator, the courtroom was silent. The defense's case was becoming undeniable. But John saved his most powerful move for last. He called Terrence's alibi witnesses to the stand, one by one. They painted a vivid picture of Terrence at the barbecue, laughing, grilling, and playing games with his family at the exact time the crime occurred. Finally, in his closing argument, John delivered a speech that would be remembered for years. "Terrence Davis is not just a defendant," he said. "He is a human being. He is a son, a brother, a student, and a man who dared to dream of a better future. Today, you have the power to right a wrong. Don't let prejudice win. Let justice prevail." If you've made it this far, let's take a moment to connect. Tell me, where are you watching from? Are you from a small town, a big city, or maybe even another country? I'd love to know how far this story is reaching. And let's talk about justice. What does it mean to you? Do you believe the system can change? How can we work together to ensure that innocent people like Terrence don't get trapped by a broken system? Share your thoughts in the comments. Your voice matters. After 2 hours of deliberation, the jury returned with their verdict, not guilty. Terrence's family erupted in tears and cheers. Even members of the jury looked emotional. Terrence fell into John's arms, overwhelmed with gratitude. The verdict wasn't just a victory for Terrence, it was a wake-up call for the nation. News outlets covered the case extensively, shining a spotlight on the prosecutor's misconduct and the systemic racism that had nearly destroyed an innocent man's life. As for John, he didn't stop there. He used the publicity from the case to push for reforms, advocating for changes in how eyewitness testimony is used and demanding accountability for prosecutors who prioritize wins over justice. If this story moved you, don't let it stop here. Hit that like button, share this video, and subscribe to the channel. Stories like John's need to be heard. And before you go, let's keep the conversation going. Tell us, what part of John's story inspired you the most? What can we do as a society to ensure justice is truly blind? Also, check out our next video, where we'll highlight another incredible changemaker fighting for equality and fairness in the justice system. Thank you for watching, and remember, justice isn't just about laws. It's about people like John Francis, who refuse to let the truth be silenced. See you in the next video.